Hey everybody, welcome to episodes 25 and 26 of You Cannot Rewatch, the Evangelion Rewatch podcast. My name is David.
And I am Dylan.
And today, as you probably guessed, we're talking about episodes 25 and 26. From the show, not from End of Evangelion, because they're also called 25 and 26, but with like a little dash next to them or something. So, watch these episodes. Sometimes people, I think a lot of people listen to this podcast without rewatching the episodes and just go on their previous knowledge. If you've seen Evangelion a ton of times, maybe that's okay. I would recommend rewatching these if you didn't. I kind of had forgotten a lot of these episodes. Like I knew what happened, but like.
Right, yeah.
Rewatching it now, even though I've seen the show, 4 or 5 times before this watch through, rewatching it now, like, it hit me again just how, like, heavy and deep and complicated everything is here. Like, I remembered it in a way, like, I remembered what happened, but I forgot just, like, how deep it all goes in this. Because I really haven't seen, I guess, these episodes as much as I've probably seen them recreated in End of Evangelion. Yeah, so on that note, I don't even know where to fucking begin. Honestly,
I feel like I also liked it better this time because last time was my first time. It's kind of a weird transition.
Yeah,
if it's your first time going to that, but
yeah, definitely.
This time I was ready for it.
Yeah, I kind of knew what I was in for the first time I watched the show, but yeah, it's definitely still pretty bizarre. A lot of people don't like 25 and 26, and I get it because not everybody watches Evangelion for the reasons we do. A lot of people watch it purely for the story, and that is it, just because they really like the story. And if that's why you watch the show, I do think that there's not a lot in these episodes. You don't really get any kind of fulfillment. You don't get any kind of progress. Like, it's just kind of like a bunch of abstract ideas. So if you were really like looking forward to some kind of conclusion, that doesn't necessarily happen here. As somebody who likes the show for like all of the psychological aspects and even, philosophical aspects, I really like these episodes. But I also, even the first time I watched Evangelion, going into these episodes, I understood that these weren't the quote-unquote true ending and that there was End of Evangelion that I'd be watching next. If I didn't know that, like if I just watched these and I thought this is it, this is the ending, and I didn't know there was a movie afterwards, I might not like them as much.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what some people kind of have against them. But I really think, yeah, especially like now I'm a little older since the last time I watched it, I think I just get more and more out of episodes like this. Mm-hmm. They're not like the best episodes of the show because they're not the most entertaining to watch because, again, they don't really have much story. But like if you just want something that's just fucking like that dives deep into people and like how people work, these are like the best episodes of the show in that respect.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think they're kind of underappreciated for that. Again, for story, whatever. But for that other stuff, they're great. I guess on that note, I was thinking maybe we would do this by, at first we'll just actually talk about just the story, just what happens story-wise in terms of Third Impact and instrumentality, and then, because that probably won't take long because, again, there's not a lot of it, and then we'll actually dive into what all the characters are thinking and going through. Okay. So that way it's kind of, we're not jumping back and forth. So the story, I'm sure everybody, knows this and is familiar with this, but before I say that, one thing I didn't realize, and I don't actually think this is a popular thing. I don't think a lot of people think this, but I know there are people out there that think episodes 25 and 26 of the show and End of Evangelion, which is also referred to as 25 and 26, are two different outcomes. The same way that the rebuilds are a different outcome and the manga is a different outcome. I've always thought, even the first time I watched it, the events in these episodes are what everybody goes through during Third Impact and instrumentality in End of Evangelion, and this is just a more expansive look at all the things that those people are thinking and feeling as they're, returning to the primordial soup.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, but apparently there's some people that don't. So
because isn't there even like some images that are kind of like...
Yes, there's several images from End of Evangelion in the show. Which is interesting because, and maybe this is wrong, but I want to say when the show finished, there was absolutely no plans to make a movie. There was no plans to make End of Evangelion. That could be wrong. Maybe there was. But
I can't remember because I know I read one way or the other, and I really can't remember what it was.
yeah, I want to say this was it, and then they later on were like, let's make a movie. That could be wrong, but
Right.
either way, it's interesting. Either way, the movie came out, I think a couple years later because Death and Rebirth came out first, and that I think was the year after the show. So either way, you had to wait a couple years for what I would call a true conclusion to the series.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that there's several images from that movie already here. So it makes me wonder,
it's
like
maybe they just had so much storyboard stuff.
yeah, maybe it just makes me wonder, like, had they already? Because I mean, the way I look at these is Anno. A lot of people, I guess we forgot to mention. One of the reasons a lot of people hate these episodes is because the joke everybody runs with is, the budget ran out. It's all this weird animation and like hand drawn stuff. They just ran out of budget the last two episodes, and people just kind of throw them away as like these budgetless things. I do believe that they had I don't just believe, it's a fact that they had a much reduced budget for these last two episodes. I don't believe that that's why they, chose to do the things they did. I think that they said, okay, here's how much money we have. What's the coolest thing we can do with that? I don't think they were just like, we can't do anything cool, so let's just fucking put some pencil sketches on. Every shot,
Right.
even the, more simple looking ones in this are important and thematically relevant to what the characters are
Right.
going through.
I
They're
think-
not just throwaway
I think-
things that they put in there.
I think that the animation is definitely done on purpose, stuff like that. But just real quickly, reading on the note on Ava Geeks for End of Evangelion, it said it's a common held belief that Anno created End of Evangelion as a form of revenge against unhappy Evangelion fans with the existing ending of the TV series. But in reality, the End of Evangelion is the closer to the original's concept for the series ending, which changed due to budget and censorship issues.
Okay, yeah,
So-
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, because based on those images, it definitely seems like the whole story for End of Evangelion, or at least most of the story for it,
Yeah.
was already decided at this
planned out.
stage. And I think a lot of people believe, well, they ran out of, and it kind of says that what you just read, so maybe this is true. But I think a lot of people think they were going to make End of Evangelion episodes 25 and 26, and they were like, we ran out of budget, so we're not going to do it. Maybe that's somewhat the case, but I kind of feel like Anno was just like, we could maybe try to do more of that, but I want to do this because I think Anno went through a lot when he was making the show. He went through a lot prior to this show, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of the same stuff that the characters are going through. And the way I always view these episodes is Anno had this show that he was working on, that he was the creator of, and he decided that he had a message he wanted to send. And episodes 25 and 26, I think he really felt like, I could do more story stuff, I could explain all of this, but I want to send this message, and I want this theme to be known and represented. All the things in his head, I think he wanted to be represented on screen. So maybe, the budget just ran out and they were like, fuck, let's throw some shit together. But I really feel like Anno was like, this is my vision for these episodes, and people aren't going to like it,
see,
but
I don't
give a shit.
I don't think the budget necessarily is a thing of being like, this is what happened. I think that just made him think of unique ways to get around it.
Right.
And I think it's still what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean,
I
everybody
could
runs
really
into budget issues when you work
Yeah.
on stuff. But I think the best people are the ones who can do something really creative and innovative with a low budget.
Yeah. But I think the biggest issue, obviously, is the censorship because, if you've seen End of Evangelion, it definitely is like a little bit too mature for TV.
That's true. That's true.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably the biggest obstacle over budget.
That could be. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that could be why a lot of the stuff is displayed as more abstract imagery rather than very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, though, so again, we're just gonna. I know some people think that maybe these are two separate things, but they're connected. I would say almost with certainty. So the events that happen in these episodes again are in End of Evangelion, which of course we'll be talking about in a couple weeks. Shinji decides fuck everybody, they can all just die, and human instrumentality begins. All the people lose their physical forms and begin to merge together. All of the barriers between people are broken, and they all form into one gigantic entity or sea or whatever you want to refer to it as. But everybody is now connected. And everything that's happening in these episodes is now that all these people are connected, their identities are kind of floating around, bumping into each other, analyzing things, figuring things out. So some of what we're seeing is Shinji, trying to figure out was this stuff I did right? What does this mean for everybody? And, sometimes he runs into other characters. Sometimes they're the actual characters, I think. Sometimes they're just the representations of those characters in his mind. And, it's a little confusing, but essentially, it's essentially that. Everybody is just now connected in a non-physical space, and they are interacting with each other, beyond the infinite. So, what was I talking about?
Instrumentality and being connected.
Yeah, so
Like
that's pretty much the story here.
Yeah.
There's a few images I'll bring up real quick, again from End of Evangelion, just so we can point them out in case anybody's curious. I'm sure you guys know. There's an image of Ritsuko floating in the orange water sea, whatever, LCL, with a gunshot. She's floating face down, and there's a bullet wound coming out of her back. We see Misato slumped to the ground in a hallway with blood smeared on the wall and all over her because she was shot. We see Asuka sitting in Unit 2 in the kind of like a curled up position down in the middle of a lake.
Yeah.
These are all, of course, from End of Evangelion. Is that it, or is there? I'm sure there's a couple others. I think those are like the major ones, though. I wonder what, because again, I kind of understood, maybe some of this stuff is from End of Evangelion, but I wonder what people who saw this for the first time thought of those shots. Not realizing that there would be a movie with those shots in there later. Like what?
Maybe they thought this is like. I mean, I guess still knowing what I know now, but maybe like I would think, oh, maybe these are just flash things to what led up to this event. Because really, this event comes out of nowhere from the last episode if you don't know the context.
Yes, and that's why again I don't know if there wasn't an End of Evangelion, would I still like these episodes at all? Because they are such a sudden shift. They jump forward a whole chapter in the book. We were doing this stuff with Karu, and all of a sudden we are knee deep in instrumentality with no explanation as to how we got to this step. So yeah, without End of Evangelion as a companion piece to these episodes. Would they work? I kind of don't know if they would.
I don't think so either.
I've heard some people say that they were still happy with this ending even before seeing End of Evangelion, and I'm totally fine with like stuff that gets weird and abstract at the end. Anno, again, we mention this all the time, very inspired by Stanley Kubrick, and this is very much a 2001 A Space Odyssey thing. I mentioned Beyond the Infinite a minute ago. This is Beyond the Infinite. All the story is just gone, and we have traveled through what the fuck ever we're traveling through, and we're just on a some kind of weird ride now, and that's what these episodes are. But it does jump forward a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's just that crucial bit of like instrumentality starting where you're just like, wait a minute, what is this? Because they kind of explain it, but they're like, we don't know how we got from point A to point B. Like there's that bit missing.
Yes,
I feel like if they explain that somehow or just showed that happening, I think it would make a little bit more sense. Yeah, but I feel like having this without having End of Evangelion, I would still like the show, but I would be more confused than ever.
Yeah, definitely. But I wonder if, because again, one of the things we always talk about with Evangelion is that it's so great to talk about and discuss and theorize over. So I wonder if in some ways it would have even been more interesting if you wouldn't have had those extra details.
Yeah, I could see.
I don't know, because there's also a lot to discuss in Evangelion, so I don't know. Anyways, though, so that's pretty much the story of these. The characters kind of float around, analyze each other, analyze themselves, figure out their motivations. Eventually, Shinji, who we know is in control of instrumentality to a certain degree, anyways. He decides, at first he's very hopeless and decides, everybody should be separate and everybody should be isolated so that we don't have all the pain and suffering. But eventually decides, though everything is bad, it doesn't have to be, and eventually pulls himself out.
Yeah. Because you see him like sitting in the chair and complaining about how everything sucks, and they're just like, "Well, this is your fault. Like, this is what you wanted.
Yes.
This is what you did."
Yeah. So eventually he's of course able to pull himself out, which we know in End of Evangelion he physically pulls himself out of the sea, followed shortly by Asuka. So that's pretty much the story. Again, we're going to dive a lot deeper into all of that, but that's in terms of just the actual events that happens in these episodes. That's pretty much it. It's just an extremely extended and in-depth look at all of what those characters are going through. So you ready to jump into all that?
Yep.
All right. So first of all, we have the case of Shinji Ikari. At first, he's just very much beating himself up for what happened with Karu. He's not obviously happy about what happened. He doesn't understand. He knows that yes, he was an angel. He was the enemy, but he can't totally grasp the fact that like, why did Karu have to die? Despite that, like he was also a person, and people tell me that he was bad, but he wasn't bad to me. He was nice to me. It just doesn't add up. And so Shinji's very much struggling with that. And, Shinji, the whole show has been struggling with, like, everybody has made him do these horrible things that he hasn't agreed with, but he's had to go along with because people tell him to do those things.
Yeah. I think a really strong part in that is when he's just like, he wasn't human, he was an angel. And then, like, Ray just kind of shows up and goes, well, then what about me?
Yes.
Does that make me different?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Yeah. That's a really good moment from Ray. Because I think a lot of people at first might be like, it's easy to just go, Karu was the enemy. You should have killed him. It's very easy to say that. But then, when you start thinking about Ray, too, well, like, Ray also wasn't a person. And she is also made in a similar fashion from Karu. She wasn't, necessarily trying to kill everybody. But I don't even know if Karu necessarily was.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he was attacking and, probably would have attempted to, or successfully even, triggered instrumentality from his perspective, we don't know for sure that would have happened. We don't know how he would have decided to do it. So, yeah, he's not that different from Ray. So then we start looking into fear. This might all sound pretty abstract, but of course, it just jumps quickly between stuff. So if there's not a lot of, like, sense to the order of stuff we're talking in, I mean, you guys watch the episode, so But so we start seeing fear flash on screen as the actual word. It's just that's a big motif in the show and in these episodes. Shinji, he fears himself. He fears being hated from his father. Also, just a quick thing. I wrote down a lot of quotes and lines. I have tons of notes on this, but I didn't always write down who was saying what, because I think in a way it doesn't totally matter. There's a few lines that it matters specifically. Oh, this person said that one, because it's very relevant to their character. But a lot of this is beyond the characters. It is about humanity as a whole and the things that everybody has issues with and is dealing with. So I don't always have... There's going to be a few of these where I'm like, I don't remember who said this, but just so everyone knows, I didn't write that down just because I didn't honestly think it was relevant. Because I think that these episodes, though they do have a logical connection to every character and a conclusion to every character psychologically, they are about... These episodes are about much bigger things than the show or the characters at this point.
Yeah.
It is addressing things about humanity itself, not just about robots and human instrumentality and secret organizations. A lot of the stuff that's being said in this episode is meant for you to... I mean, it's pretty obviously meant for you to actually think about yourself. So anyways, yeah, Shinji, fears being hated by others, by his father. We see him kind of symbolically in a foggy area, kind of lost in the fog, and he's just wondering, he's waiting for someone to tell him what to do now. Shinji, the show is about growing up, and the character of Shinji most primarily is used to showcase that, though other characters are as well. And Shinji essentially is grown up now. He is at the stage where... and again, this is, thematically, not necessarily his character. His character's still 14 or 15 or whatever. But he's facing adult decisions now. He, the childhood innocent stuff is over, and he understands now that he has to do more things as an adult. But he still wants somebody to tell him what to do, because when you're a kid, people tell you what to do. All of a sudden, one day you're an adult, and you have all this freedom and all these choices you can make, and you've had all these rules before. You had to go to school, you had to do this, you had to be in bed by 11 or whatever. And then, one day when you don't have any of those rules anymore, there is definitely that thing of like, what am I supposed to do? What should I do? And so Shinji is at the very first realization of that. To a lot of people, that's a very freeing thing. When that first happens, it's like, oh, that's really great. No one's going to tell me I can't go buy like 2 gigantic pizzas and eat them both tonight. But, that can also be like a bad thing, because sometimes you have too many choices and you don't know what you're supposed to do. So they start asking him, why do you pilot the Eva? Is it for others? Asuka accuses him of piloting it actually for himself. And, this is definitely, I think, meant to be symbolic of just like, Shinji bases his existence off of piloting the Eva. It is his, I guess you could say, job or his reason for existing. It is his thing that he does that gives him a reason to to exist and to be accepted by others. So, you know,
I mean, like, you kind of use the excuse of like, well, they just tell me to do it, so I do it. But it definitely is for acceptance because, like he says later on, like people treat him better when he pilots it.
yes. And yeah, this is jumping ahead a bit too, but yeah, later on, you know, he says that in his mind, the way he looks at it, he doesn't matter if he doesn't pilot. Nothing that he does matters. He doesn't really exist. The only thing he has is piloting. The way he looks at it, which is incorrect because of his perception, but he thinks that everybody hates him except for when he pilots, and that's the only time people like him and pay attention to him. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's really why he does it, is for that fear of being hated. He doesn't want that, so he tries to pilot to be liked, and just the idea of being accepted by others. There's a quote, and I don't remember who said this one, but in this, I can't remember. Some of these are verbatim. A couple of them the words might be off, and also I'm not totally sure about translation and stuff. But sitting there waiting for someone else to bring you happiness, but it's a false happiness. I think that's what Asuka says. So yeah, you're sitting there waiting for someone else to bring you happiness, but it's a false happiness. So essentially, you know, the way you perceive things in your mind, if you're always looking towards other people to give you the things you want, then you will never have those things. Mm-hmm. Shinji pilots the Eva so that people will like him and give him his happiness because he can't find happiness for himself. So, you know, based on that, he will never have happiness because he's relying on that from other people when he should be relying on himself for it. And then Rei pops up and accuses Asuka, isn't that what you're doing? And so we jump into the case of Asuka.
One real quick thing before we go there. Is there any sort of significance of Asuka's outfit changing every single time we see her?
I think it's just meant to be, because we see Rei change too, kind of between the Rei 1, 2, and 3. I think that kind of stuff is meant to be symbolic of the different aspects of those people's personality and characters. Of course, with Rei, you know, those are actually technically different characters. We'll get into that more in a minute. But I think with Asuka, yeah, it's the same way as when Asuka was being mentally examined by that one angel, and we saw like all the different aspects of her personality flashing as she kept repeating the same lines over and over. I think this is similar, where it's like, you know, since everybody is viewing each other fully, you're seeing all the parts of a person. We see Misato in different outfits later too. Yeah, I think that's all it is. I don't know if it's any more complicated than that, or maybe it just means nothing. Maybe again, you know, the budget, you know, was a little lower. They reused a lot of animation in this episode, so maybe they just reused.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. It was like just like you said, seeing Shinji seeing Asuka in the different aspects, that like the one she sees herself as, the one Shinji sees her, you know, one of those things. I didn't know if it was like supposed to be like that.
Yeah. Okay, so I should have probably wrote down who said this one. It won't. Oh, okay. This is Asuka. She's in her Eva in the lake from End of Evangelion, and she's just saying it won't work anymore. And this isn't verbatim, but it's junk because I'm junk. I'm worthless. So you know, Asuka has done a very similar thing to Shinji, where she has put all of her identity and existence into piloting, and now that she has lost the ability to do that successfully, she has lost her reason for existing. Just as the Eva will no longer work for her and is useless, she is now useless as well. She's useless to everybody else who has relied on her, and that she has come to, you know, please and get respect and admiration out of. She has no worth to any of them anymore, which is, of course, the same way as Shinji is a falsehood. Those people would still, you know, accept her, or at least other people might, even if those wouldn't. So let's see. Then there's another quote. You seek your own value in the perception of others, which, you know, is kind of what I was just saying. Being alone. Oh, I can't read what I wrote. My handwriting's really bad. Something. You're dependent on others. Something about that. So, you know, Asuka has kind of a duality going on where she wants to be grown up. She wants to be an adult. She wants to be mature and handle stuff because of everything that's happened to her throughout her life, losing her mom the way she did. She's not going to cry anymore. She's going to be grown up, and she doesn't need anybody else. She wants to be very independent, but at the same time, she feels a need for other people. Despite how much she wants to push them away, she needs them too. And again, this is also kind of what Shinji is going through, but in a different way. Shinji, you know, hides himself away from people, but he also feels a need for them. The reason he's piloting an Eva is for the acceptance of other people. Despite all the running away he does and the hiding in his room listening to music, the whole reason that he continues to exist and move forward by piloting the Eva is for others. So despite what either of these characters tell themselves, everything that they do, no matter how independent they want it to be, is for others. So we kind of jump into the case of Rei. Now this one's a little different because Asuka and Shinji are legitimately very similar. The only difference is really how they react to others, but they both kind of have the same thoughts and emotions. So Rei, this part's a little bit more abstract, I think. Rei's questioning is more about like, who am I? That kind of stuff, like identity. We see all the different Reis that we've seen so far, Rei 1, 2, and 3, kind of interacting with each other. They're all saying, like, are you Rei? I am Rei as well. We're all Rei. But why? Why would we all be Rei? Because we're different. We're not the same. We're 3 different entities. But they say they're all the same Rei because others call them that.
Yeah.
So it's another thing of like, based on the perception of others, kind of dictates who you are. Like, I was gonna go into like some great example, but I don't have one.
Well, they even go into even farther by being like, there is a real Rei that you're based on.
Yeah.
But you've never seen, kind of thing, which gets like real existential on that.
Yeah. That's the thing with the Rei stuff. It's very abstract and existential, and it's kind of a different note than all the other characters what they're going through.
Oh yeah, definitely, it's crazy.
So Rei has a false soul and a false body, but then Rei says it's neither false nor fake, simply me. But then it's also accused of an object pretending to be human. So Rei being a being that's been created artificially, has maybe a lot more cognitive thoughts than maybe was intended. And I don't know if when Rei was created they had intended Rei to have a sense of identity or a sense of questioning identity. But Rei has definitely either developed that or already had the ability for that.
Right.
And I still always wonder if the Reis are somewhat connected, because Rei 3 seems to have some knowledge of Rei 2, some of the memories, despite saying that she doesn't. I definitely
feel like in this show it definitely really seems like they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about, Rebuild aside, not even thinking about that. I feel like just in the show it really does seem like something kind of translates through.
Yeah, I feel like it does. In a way, they're still separate characters, because I think Rei 1, especially to Rei 2, very different. And even Rei 2 and Rei 3 have their differences. But yeah, again, they say that they are all essentially the same because they are all referred to that way. So what they're doing is, they can't figure out their identity, so they're looking to others to figure out the identity for them.
It's like they share similar memories, but not necessarily progress they've made.
Yes.
Because it's like Rei 3 remembers certain things, but she doesn't have the fully developed emotions and connections like Rei 2 did.
Yeah. Yeah, so that brings us into another quote. I became myself through the links with others. Formed by interaction with others, they create me as I create them. So, the way... I guess kind of what I was saying, they all refer to her as Rei. They all look at her, and that becomes her identity. The way people look at you and think of you is who you are. And the same way that the way you look at them is who they are. They create me as I create them.
Right.
You fear disappearing from the minds of others if another exists, because then your current self will cease to exist. So this is the dilemma of the Reis. If they're all referred to as Rei, and if their identities are dictated by what others refer to them as, then Rei 3, now being called Rei and referred to as Rei, in a way means that Rei 2 ceased to exist. There is no longer a memory of Rei 2, because it is now here as Rei. They no longer look back and mourn Rei as a separate, entity.
Right.
Except maybe for Gendo, I don't know, but definitely everybody else is.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but that's kind of weird to think of.
Yeah.
It's like a person who literally stopped existing, but no one really thinks about it or dwells on it or even mourns her, because it's just they don't, I guess, really grasp that she's gone.
Yeah. I can't decide if I want to say this. It reminds me of something else from another show that happens to a character, but I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, I won't say.
Oh, okay. I know.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know where you go.
Where a character seems to be around, but they're actually gone. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking
about. Sorry, everybody. I would say it, but I don't want to spoil it because it's a huge spoiler if you haven't seen the show. But anyways, so that's interesting though. That idea that Rei 2, wanted to be remembered as her own person, and now that didn't happen. Rey 2
I mean,
is just gone.
She developed relationships and feelings for like people and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's just
like,
gone.
Gone.
Yeah, nobody's looking back on it. Even Rey 3 really barely even has any recognition of that. So
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, a person just completely erased with no trace, really, because they have essentially been replaced.
do you think all the big Rey fanboys have their favorite Rey?
Oh, definitely. I would imagine most people say it's Rey 2.
I would
So we
hope
see
so.
through most of the show. But yeah, anyway, so what's next? Dylan, talk about something while I'm looking through my notes.
Then we go to Masato.
Hang on, not yet.
Next, don't we? We don't?
Well, there's a little bit more for Rey.
Oh, she talks about how she wants to return back to nothingness.
Okay, yeah. I wrote really fast because I kept. It took me like forever to watch these episodes because I was pausing at almost every line and writing it
I know,
down.
yeah, me too.
And so I was trying to write super fast, and my handwriting's already terrible. So sorry, guys. Stick with me here. So yeah, Rey says Rey is actually happy. Rey wants to return to nothingness, to be abandoned. That's something that Rey always wished for, but now the day is coming soon when Rey will be abandoned, and now it's no longer something to be desired and wished for. It is something to be feared.
Which it's kind of interesting because that's very, very much in contrast to the other two characters.
Yes.
They very much want acceptance and never to be abandoned or let go because they've already been abandoned, and that's like that. That's all Rey wants is just to be left alone.
Yeah, but it's interesting because in some ways the other characters, though they don't want that, they felt that urge. Like Shinji pushes people away. He doesn't want them to go away, but he pushes them away. Asuka kind of does the same thing. That's why she's so blunt towards people and volatile, is because though she wants them to stick around and have a connection with her, she pushes them away rapidly. And but they both, at the end of the day, they don't want to be abandoned. And Rey is always, seems like, I don't care. I want to be abandoned. I don't care. But then when it actually comes time to it, she realizes that's not what she wants. That she does want a continuing connection with others. So really, they all share that in a sense. So then, this is another thing from End of Evangelion. It's not the exact shot, but we see Gendo appear, and he says, "This is the day you were created for, Rey." And that's a line from End of Evangelion. The shot here is a little different, and then it says, "And so the Human Instrumentality Project begins." So we go back to Shinji. We see, him describing his physical form disappearing, and he says he's experienced it before because, of course, in episode 20, he disappears into the Ava. So this is something, the losing of his physical form is something he's experienced, and so this is a familiar, maybe almost kind of comforting feeling because he says, it feels nice. He feels like he's being spread out to cover the entirety of existence.
That's another thing in the dub they changed, which I thought was, I don't know why you change it. It's pointless. Because in the dub he just says this feels acceptable, which doesn't make it seem like it feels good at all.
Yeah, because in this there's sort of there's almost a pleasure out of returning to this.
Exactly.
So then everything returns to nothing, but it's not a return to nothingness, merely a return to the beginning. So that's what Gendo says, that second part. Because, the beginning of people, when they started here in the Evangelion universe, people were all connected into the same, being, the same place. And it was only, with evolution or creation or whatever you want to call it in this show, that they formed their own separate bodies. So this is, the way Shinji might think it is a comforting feeling, it is because it is not just something he experienced in episode 20, but, where the human race started in Evangelion. There's more. Return to the primal womb we lost long ago. All individual souls and minds will become one, attaining a state of eternal peace. So this will be the forever now. Rather than existing in the separate beings, they will all exist in the same space.
Yep.
Okay, what's next? Is there more? All men's accomplishments... no, this is a different one. All men's accomplishments stem from the hope of filling the void we all feel. So essentially, and this is true with everybody, there are, kind of empty parts in everybody. There are gaps that we all feel. Things that we feel like we're missing or lacking. And so the point of the Human Instrumentality Project was to reunite everybody to fill all the gaps together. Rather than existing in separate beings that are all flawed, come back together into a perfect organism that doesn't feel all of those faults constantly. And then, Misato appears. How dare you do this just to prove a theory? Which is one of the few times I think in these episodes we actually hear, somebody like just cutting through all the kind of
bullshit.
Yeah, I was gonna say bullshit. I guess it's not totally bullshit, but cutting through all of the stuff we're seeing and just calling it out for what it is. And that jumps us into the Misato case. So we see Shinji appear to Misato and at first and talk to her, and Shinji kind of says to her, "To establish my identity, I must examine others." So I believe at this part, Shinji is maybe kind of not sure about all this instrumentality stuff that he's experienced. So he's trying to kind of really put himself together, get a real idea of himself rather than just float endlessly in the void. So he's, the only way he knows, and the only way really you can figure out yourself is to figure out yourself from the perspective of others. Because we can only really view ourselves from one very shallow perspective. We really do, this is a huge theme in these episodes, we really do exist purely based on the perceptions of how we appear to others. Yeah. They said before in Evangelion, in everybody's mind there is a different version of you, and all of those are true versions. They are not just the way somebody looks at you. That is a true representation of yourself, the way that somebody else thinks of you. And this is kind of saying that, in a way, those are the only true versions of yourself. Sure, there is one in your mind that you think of yourself, but really, if it isn't for other people perceiving you and figuring out who you are, and you're not looking at those people to figure out who you are from their perspective, then you're nothing. If you sit at home and never ever talk to anybody, you really can't get any perception of yourself because there's nothing to compare or contrast it to. Yeah. All of that information you have about yourself is the information you derived from others.
I feel like that's one of the most deepest and probably most important things Hano really examines in this show.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's huge. And yeah, again, I've mentioned this all the time, but watching this in high school, that was enormous to me because I always thought like, kind of like what Ray does. I'm just myself, whatever. And then like the idea that you're not just yourself. Everything about you is the way other people look at you. It is not just the way you look at yourself in a mirror. It is the way everybody else looks at you. Really, looking in a mirror doesn't do you any good. You have to look at other people looking at you. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different thing. So back to Misato. So Misato, we see her as a young girl saying that she has to be good. She has to not cry. She has to not be hated. But she hates that life. She hates being good and being strong just to, make all of her family happy and not hate her. She hates it so much that she really wants the opposite. She doesn't want to be good and strong. She wants to be disgraced and, put down. And Ritsuko asks her, "Is that why you slept with Kaji?" And Misato says, "No, I slept with him because I loved him." We jump to a scene of Misato and Kaji banging, and Shinji's watching. And
this scene gets kind of weird.
It's very weird. Yeah, it's definitely. I wrote it down as the voyeur scene. Misato's like, "No, don't. I don't want Shinji to see this." And she's being accused like, "You're happy to show him this, aren't you?" And she says, "No." Because
she's doing something so incredibly dirty and kinky that she cannot let Shinji watch. But that's what I get the impression the entire time. She's like, you let him see this side of you, and it's like, I can't tell if you're just talking about this is like maybe where you lost your virginity to him or to some type of what. But it's just the way they do it. It almost has this weird air of like she's doing something real fucked up.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it just goes back to like, from a certain perspective, she wants to be looked at as the good girl, the responsible, strong person. But in the same way, she wants to defy that urge to feel that way. So, to Shinji, she was always this caregiver, this good person that's there to care for him. But in a way, because she hates that aspect, she wants him to see her at her lowest. Like, deep down, she wants her to see him, not necessarily getting banged, but she wants to see him, or she wants him to see her being disgraced and put down. Because
she's also a broken character like he is.
Yeah, definitely.
She's not this perfect, pristine character, but he likes to think she is.
Definitely, yeah. So then that's kind of what they say, like, is that why you went to sleep with Kaji in the first place? You wanted peace of mind from him. Then she's accused of you wanted to find your father in him. Despite the fact that you say you want this person to disgrace you, you really went and dated somebody that was a lot like your dad. Yeah. And she eventually admits it is true. He was a lot like my father, and that was part of why I left him and ran away. She fought so hard to get away from her father, and she ended up finding her father in another person. I think that's something a lot of people identify with. Not that you're literally dating somebody, like that, but there's always people that you want to get away from, and people are so broad. Everyone is going to remind you of somebody. Mm-hmm. So I don't even think it's necessarily that Kaji was exactly like her dad. I think he just had certain similar, characteristics that she didn't realize at first. But as they continued to be lovers, started to come out, and she realized, like, I can't be with anybody that has those characteristics. And maybe to a certain degree that means she can't be with any man, because it might be characteristics that are so broad that, those would be in anybody. I don't know. Right. But I think that's a lot of the issues she has with that, and why she's never really gone back to any other people aside from Kaji her whole life. But she also talks about she didn't just leave because of that. She left because she was happy. She was the happiest she'd ever been. Yeah. And I think this is something I think a lot of people can honestly identify with. Like, sometimes you're in a situation where everything is just going really well, but you are at such a low point at that time in your life. You were so, feeling so contrarian to that sort of lifestyle, you don't feel a part of it. And so you just kind of abandon it or leave it just out of a weird necessity to be put down, to not feel good, because it's like, kind of not what you're used to at that point.
It's like she says that's like unbearably wonderful feeling. Like, it's just so wonderful she can't bear it. Like, she doesn't want to have any part of it. She's just kind of like scared of it almost.
Right. And I don't want to get into any kind of like sexist stuff here, but I feel like that's something that a lot of girls feel. Just from personally talking to girls, I've known a lot of girls that were in very happy relationships that left, and then if you talk to them, like, as their friend, like, why did you leave? They'll be like, they'll say, I wasn't good enough for him or whatever, and guys do this too, but, they'll say, like, I wasn't good enough for him or whatever, and all this stuff, and it is this weird feeling of not just being okay with a happy situation, because you feel so low about yourself that you can't accept that something is just good, because the way you look at yourself is so hateful that it just can't, your mind can't process something good.
And in another aspect too, it's in a way of being like, you're so used to having things go horribly wrong for you and bad situations happen, you're afraid if you let yourself be too happy or too good of a situation, it's just going to hurt even more when you think it inevitably is going to just stop.
Yeah, that could definitely be a part of that too. But Kaji says, punishing yourself like that, running away from those things, is just a cheat to make you feel better for a little while. And I think that's definitely true. Despite those people seeming like, they're really doing the hard thing by running away or really doing that, it kind of makes them feel better in a way. Even though it's like, it's not that, they were happy, and you think, oh, they ran away from happiness, so they must be sad. In a way, it's kind of a justification for their actions, because they get a little bit of like, they feel better about it. If you were in a situation where you felt like you didn't deserve to be happy and you left, you feel better because the other person can now be happy. You feel like you're getting what you deserve. So it's sort of a cheat to get by that. And it's not like it's a cheat enough to where it fixes the problem for you. You're still very flawed and very broken. But it's like it's a temporary escape. So in a way, it's not really a total, like, I don't know. Yep. I lost what I was talking about. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today. This episode's fucking crazy, and it's got me thinking about a lot of stuff. We see a lot of people saying hateful things to Misato, except for Glasses Nerve Guy, who's the only person who congratulates her. But, we see everybody saying mean things to her. We also see this from Shinji later. This is another thing that the characters have in common, where no matter what other characters say to them, they have this idea in their mind that everybody hates them. They think that even the people that are nice to them aren't really being nice. Like, it's an act or whatever. Like, they have this idea deep down that everybody really does not like them, whatever. And I think that's what this is meant to be. I guess the Nerve guy from Glasses, or the Glasses guy from Nerve, fuck. God damn it. I guess that one's an exception.
I think even later on he says something mean to her too. Like, you'd bang anybody, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, he does say something like that. So yeah, it's just the idea that, like, and what they kind of say is, like, you gather all this hate from other people, but really what it is your hatred of yourself. You can't accept that other people feel good about you and like things about you because you can't accept that you like yourself. You don't like yourself. And oh man, there's a line. It's jumping ahead a little bit. I wrote it down somewhere, but it's something about fuck. I'll have to bring it up when we get to. I don't know. Anyways, so the me. The me that's appreciated is playing the role to be appreciated, but it's not the real me. So this is the dilemma Misato finds herself in. She has done essentially what Shinji and Asuka are starting to do and have been doing. Rather than accepting herself and being, a well-rounded person, she has put all of herself and her identity into one single place, her position at NERV. And because people respect her there, people like her there, and she can't face all of the other facets of her life, so she has put everything into the single one, the same way that Shinji and Asuka do that with the Evangelions. But it's not the real version of themselves, and that's why it's a struggle. You go do that job. Shinji goes and pilots and does what he's told, and acts okay with doing it. He runs away every once in a while and stuff like that, but he continues to go back and try, and he doesn't do that because that's him, that's his personality. He does it out of a necessity to please others. It's playing a role for the sake of being liked. Mm-hmm. And Misato has done that for so long that has become her, but it's not really her. And she kind of can't escape that now. Let me turn my page. So, we must face the harsh reality that, kind of all of that. We can't run away from all that stuff. You have to accept all of the bad things and cope with them, deal with them. And another thing about Misato, they say, defining yourself through physical contact fills the hole with temporary escape. So those faults you see in yourself, a lot of people do this, through banging people or through just hugging or whatever, like through physical contact or even sometimes just verbal contact. You're filling that hole with a temporary escape, a temporary way to feel better, though it's not a permanent fix. We jump into the second Asuka case. She says, I'm going to try to speed up a little bit because we're taking forever. She says, I want to live by myself, to not cry anymore. But then she says, why am I still crying? So she's going through, what Misato went through, like this idea of wanting to grow up a lot faster, wanting to not cry, wanting to be strong. But it's not, it's an act. It's not her true self. She is still crying deep down because she never took the time to cope with everything that happened. She jumped ahead a million steps to try to be mature. Right. So we hear a conversation between her father and her stepmother, just kind of about, I hate that girl, whatever, she sucks, and I can quit being her mother anytime I want because I'm not her real mom. You're her real dad, so you can't. You have to stick with her, but that's an option for me. Then we see... go ahead.
I actually had a question on that. Are those the same two doctors we hear about in the Asuka's episode a few episodes earlier?
I think so, but I'm not sure. Probably.
That's what Okay. I assumed as much because they call him doctor and all that stuff like that. So I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm mad that, so that's probably how his father met the stepmom while he was...
Yeah, that just makes it even worse.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's just like... Damn.
So, we hear some quotes from Asuka's real mom again, talking to the doll, die with me, all that stuff. And Asuka, of course, is so, oppositional to the idea of the doll now. She's not a doll. She wants to think and live for herself. She doesn't want anybody to tell her what to do. She wants to be her own person. When she saw her mom hanging there, her mom looked so happy, and she hated the way she looked because, she doesn't want to just give up like that. She wants to live for herself. She says, I hate everyone. Nobody stays with me. I don't want to depend on anybody, but I hate it. I don't want to be alone. So Asuka's, having that same issue of, she's pushed everybody away because she wants to be independent and strong, but really she needs them deep down. Then we see, this is the instrumentality. The truth is within you. The facts in your memory will become your truth. So that's something we'll get back to in a minute. There's just a quote that happened at that point. It goes on, I guess, a little bit. This is the conclusion you wanted. This is to Shinji. This is the conclusion you wanted. Total destruction. A world where no one is saved. No one can save you. This is your world. This is, and then Shinji says that is the world. That's not my world. That is how the world is. Nobody being able to save you. Chaos, terrible stuff. And then they said, no, that's not how the world is. You made the decision. You created this based on what you wanted. And this is obviously. Hang on, let me finish this. A world of isolation and loneliness. One of many outcomes, the one you chose. So, instrumentality is really just a metaphor for how you choose to perceive the world. Shinji has chosen to, at least in this moment, to give up on everything. To, because he feels like everything is so terrible and so awful. Everybody hates him, and there's all these bad things, these anxieties, these fears, this hatred that... he wants this world where everybody can't touch each other. Everybody's separate and isolated, and so he chooses that. But this is something everybody can do. In a weird way, you can all do that. You can decide, I don't like everybody. I will close myself off from everybody else. Right. And it doesn't mean that you lost your physical form and we're in a big body or pile of goop with a bunch of other dudes. It means that maybe you stay at home. You don't go out with your friends. You don't talk to other people. There's a lot of different ways you could do that. And essentially it's saying it's one of many outcomes. Everybody can choose to look at the world from a certain perspective and dictate the rest of their life based on the way they looked at it. But to do that in the wrong way, as Shinji is, denies you a lot of great stuff and really closes you off from all these other things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much the end of episode 25. Yep. So jumping into 26, kind of right where we left off.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Let me change. I'm going to pull up that episode so I can scroll through it.
Okay, cool. So they kind of say at the beginning of this episode, there's too little time to discuss everything. So we will just stick with the mind of Shinji. So, this is kind of, I think, talking directly to the audience, like, hey, we could have done all this End of Evangelion stuff. Yeah, we don't have time. There's so much stuff Anno wanted to address in this episode. So much stuff. He had to pick where his focus wanted to be. And he didn't want it to be on story. He wanted it to be on these characters and really, even more than the characters, the things going through his own mind. So yeah, we go back to fear of being hated. We are all basically the same, they say. Mankind cannot survive alone. We try to fill the gaps in ourselves and each other. To become one is to complete each other. So that's kind of the goal of instrumentality, is, since people already look to each other to fill the faults in themselves or, to be more rounded as people, if we were all combined and all connected, we would all complete each other. But they, back to the line, we're all basically the same. Obviously not everybody is going to be the same in terms of feeling as desolate as Shinji or as, angry as Asuka or as, confused about identity as Rei. Obviously you're not going to be all that. But these people, what they mean by we're all basically the same is, to an extent, everybody feels a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's these are just physical embodiments of those things people feel throughout their life.
Yeah, and
especially when growing up.
These are taken to extreme examples for the sake of, making a point. But yeah, these are all meant to represent things everybody feels. And I don't know, maybe someone will write and be like, I've never felt like any of that. Congratulations, I guess. Ignorance is bliss. But I mean,
that's the ending's for. It's for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I just, I mean, to be fair, there are people that don't ever go through any of that. I've met people that were 50 years old that have never had any of these thoughts about, what is life? What is everything? Why do I exist? Why do I do the things I do? Do people like me? Who am I? I've met people that have never had those thoughts. And I don't want to offend anybody if you're listening and haven't had those thoughts, but please have those thoughts. Those are very important to have.
Important thoughts.
Those grow you as a person. They give you empathy to other people. They make you understand everything in life and decide how you want to live better. I'm sure that's nothing new to people watching, but again, I've met people that have surprised me with they're happy. I will say that again, ignorance is bliss. Those people seem to be very happy because they never have any of the doubt about themselves or the fear of being hated. But you got to go through that stuff. So why do you exist? For whom? So of course, that's just some more existential questions. That's what Rei is going through. What's the point of being here? Why, in Rei's case, why was I created? Some people might feel that way too. Were we created, or either why were you created? Why were you evolved? Why were you born? Whatever. For what purpose? Are you happy? Do you hate being sad? So do you? Some people can be okay with feeling a little bit down. But with most of the characters in the show, they run away, and their justification is, why not run from something that hurts? They say, running away only brings more pain. It can be far worse. Being able to take even the most horrific things head on and deal with them as quickly as you can is obviously the best way to get through life. It can be hard, but the more you run away and deny things and thoughts and ideas, the harder it will eventually be as they start to stack up. It's better to jump into stuff, address it quickly, and move on with your life and not let it stop you. Let's see. Oh, then they say, you just believe things to be true. So all of the ideas that you have, these hateful thoughts that other people have towards you, all that stuff, those are things you believe to be true. You know, maybe they are. Maybe people do hate you. I don't know, but like, it's very easy to extrapolate those thoughts and make them much more serious than they are. You know, if you text a hot girl and she doesn't reply, it's really easy to be like, oh, I'm a piece of trash. Nobody wants to talk to me. But hey, it's just like one person. They might have just been busy. You know, like it's so easy to take those messages you get and blow them up into a way bigger proportion than they are.
Yeah.
And if you do that for every single thing that everybody does to you, it's going to be very easy to hate or feel like everybody hates you and to hate yourself along with them, because that's a false perception.
Especially like you said, false perception. Especially if someone tries to talk you out of it.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just like, no, they hate me. It's like, well, if you're not listening, but you're gonna be stubborn about it, that's just how you're gonna view everything.
Yeah. You risk getting yourself too deep in a hole where you can't believe other people because you think that they're all just trying to trick you or they all hate you. It's definitely a slippery slope. And you know, of course, the characters in the show are kind of all at the bottom of the slope at this point. What else? So, you know, they want a purpose, a justification for existing. So that's, you know, why they do most of the things they do. But the problem with what the characters do is they put all of their purpose and justification for existing into a single thing, and they only do it for the sake of pleasing others, not for themselves, which is dangerous. You know, you should do what you want to do. You shouldn't do things to make others happy. Let's see, what else? If you depend on only one thing, then it's your only identifier. Your only value. The real you will be erased from existence. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the more you push yourself down one road, the less you are. You become somebody else. You become the person that's there to please others.
Right, and you become so dependent on that one identifying factor that if that ever disappears, you're like nothing.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you're just not going to be happy if you do that. Like, because you're not living your life the way you wanted to. So on that note, they say, you know, what do you want? What do you desire? What would make you happy? Then what else? So you want value, enough worth to attract the attention of others, a reason to exist. But they say, you know, you have to find your own value. You shouldn't look for it in others. What am I? Everything is only something others can recognize. So that, you know, just back to what we're saying, like, everything exists only as something recognized by others. Which, you know, is a philosophical thing. It's also kind of quantum physics thing, if anybody's into that. The role of the observer is very important in quantum physics, but, you know, of course, from a philosophical or psychological perspective, it's the same thing as, like, everything only exists as a perception of somebody else. Why is a dog called a dog? Because we chose to call it a dog. That is the way we've chosen to perceive it. Why is it a pet? We've chosen to perceive it that way. We've marked it that way. We've identified it that way. But that's the way we've chosen to. It doesn't mean that that's, you know, necessarily the right way or you know, whatever. You know, same. That definitely goes for people and the aspects of their personality too. You are you. There's little difference between how you and others view yourself. So this is, you know, what the characters struggle with. They can't accept that there is that little difference. And I don't know if it's totally a little difference or not, but that's, you know, that's what the show's going for here, is that it's you think people hate you more than they do, and you think that river is wider than it is, but really the way you view yourself and the way others view you isn't so different. Yeah. Normally, you know, if you think that, like, you're a justified serial killer, it's probably a pretty wide river as the differences.
Yeah, but I would say.
The only one that can understand you is yourself. So this is kind of contrarian to what they're saying earlier, because it's, you know, earlier saying, like, you have to identify yourself through others, but the only one that can understand you is yourself. But what I think it means is, it's not totally contradicting it. I believe what it means is, you're still understanding yourself, but you know, you have to understand yourself from others. So it's kind of a merging of those ideas. You look towards others and for the comparisons and the contrasts, the way they view you, the way you perceive that they view you, and you're taking all of that information and figuring out yourself from it. You're not just sitting looking into a mirror figuring yourself out. You know, you're figuring it out from interactions with others. But they also, you know, you're capable of change any time. You don't have to be stuck in a situation. You can choose to get through it, you know, based on what you want to believe. Mm-hmm. Then we go to kind of a pencil-drawn thing, which they call a world of perfect freedom, which is just Shinji floating around in an infinite white void. And they say this is perfect freedom because anything is possible here. But, you know, what it kind of really means is, like, anything is possible and nothing is. Like there's really nothing here,
Right.
but there's no restrictions.
No limitations.
There's no and they say this is kind of what you want, but in a way it's stressful because like if there's
It's more of a burden to you.
yeah, because you can go anywhere. There's no idea of where to go. There's no sense of direction. So they say, now we can give you a line, a ground to stand on. Now you're stuck to the ground. You can walk along it, but you're stuck here. You can no longer fly. You've lost a degree of freedom, but you feel better because now you have a sort of sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm. Dude, watching this the second time, this is like really some deep shit, but like really, really like that explains stuff in a really well like.
Yeah. Watching that
that's a great
specific
analogy.
part, I was thinking like, you could just have this as its own little short thing, and like unrelated to Evangelion, just put this little part of it right here as a short, and everybody on like the internet would fucking loved it. Like, put this on Reddit and Tumblr or whatever. People were blogging the shit out of this. It won't matter if it's from Evangelion.
It is really it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You want this like over complete freedom of everything, but really that causes you more stress because if you can do everything, you don't know what to do. Like you just don't have that sense of direction you need.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I think a lot of people struggle with in life too, because like, back, 18th century, even early 19th century, like you did what your parents did.
Yeah.
If your parents were, farmers, you were a farmer. If your parents, were waiters, you were probably a waiter. You stuck to it. And that sounds terrible, right? Like you married who you were supposed to marry and you lived in this one place. You didn't move away to some big city. Mm-hmm. It sounds terrible. But in a way, those people were happy because from the beginning, they knew what their life was going to be. There was never a question of what's my life going to be. Again, ignorance is bliss.
I mean, how many times
now you can do anything. You're told you can do anything. You can go to any school. You can choose to not go to school. You can, travel the world. You can become an artist. You can become a musician. You can become a mortician. Anything you want to be. Fuck it, do anything. And it's like, oh, really, that's cool. Yeah, I have the power to do anything. So what do I do?
Exactly. Once you try starting to do it, it's just like it's just so overwhelming. It's like I don't know what to do or how to do anything I want to do.
Definitely. And even if you pick the certain field, like, I want to be, back to musician. I want to be a musician. Okay, what kind? Do you want to, do orchestral performances? Right. Do you want to be a conductor? Do you want to be in a band? Do you want to do video game soundtracks? Like, television show? Like, what do you want to do? And it's just like, there's so many fucking options. Like, it's very hard to just pick a very narrow goal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's good to have a broader goal, but like if you're too broad, you'll end up being stagnant forever and not doing anything. Mm-hmm. So those restrictions can help you a lot. And it's kind of back to what we're saying actually about like the budget of this episode. Everybody criticizes these episodes for having such a low budget, but I think you do more with more restrictions. Mm-hmm. Because when you have a low budget, you're able to say, here's what we need to do and here's how we'll do it. Yeah. If you have too big of a budget, everything is so fucking, you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And it can be bad too. You need to work in the constraints that you have.
This is kind of a great. I think it's a decent example. I mean, look at George Lucas, and then George Lucas's the prequels.
That's a great example. Yeah, the Star Wars movies. The original Star Wars movies were so low budget and flawed. They had none of the technology they needed to make the movies. No. George Lucas had to rely on so many people just to help him out to get it going. Original cuts of the movie were awful. Like it was just scraping along, and those are like the best fucking movies ever. Yeah. In terms of the genre that they're in, and then George Lucas had the free will to do anything with the prequels. Nobody told him no. Complete freedom, as much budget as you want. You can do fucking anything. And I mean, I don't think I need to say what happened with those. So yeah, that is a really good example actually. Obviously that's from a more artistic sense than the show is necessarily meaning, but that can be applied to anything. That's just about life in general. So, with only, Shinji says, with only myself, I have nothing to interact with. As if I'm here, but not here at all. So again, going back to, like, if you don't have anything else in this space, then you don't have anything to judge yourself on. If you're the only person and you've never seen another person, what is a person?
Right.
I
mean, that's some deep shit.
Yeah. It's the same way, like, the first time I saw, like, a picture of a dragon fruit, I was like, I've never seen that. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same thing, like, discovering something for the first time. You get used to things and you learn what things are based on seeing them over and over and seeing, yourself from the perspective of others. Oh, God, this is taking fucking forever. I know. I hope people are liking this because, fuck, man. I'm having fun making it, but, man, I keep thinking, is anybody going to be entertained about what we're talking about? Because I feel like the episode really makes these points well enough. So I don't know if we're making it any better than the episode, so I hope everybody's liking this. Anyways,
It's not over yet.
it's not even over. How do you like it so far?
Right.
Without others, you cannot truly recognize your own image. In the act of observing others, you may recognize yourself. Just what I said. By recognizing differences with others, you establish yourself. Again, what we've been talking about. So then we see... Here's something we can talk about. We see an alternate world.
Yes, and I have a lot to talk about this, actually.
All right, you want to go ahead and kick this one off then?
Okay, so we've been talking about some deep stuff. This is like so far contrast from really deep things that happened.
Yeah.
Like
it's out of left field for sure.
it's out of left field for sure. This is basically what everybody's life could have been in Evangelion, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is, if everything went well, Shinji would be just this typical pervy Japanese, you know, middle school or high school, whatever he's in, boy. But I don't know about you, but the dub is, like, really, really weird in this.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down here. I watched the sub, but I wrote down in the thing because I wanted to bring it up because I remember the dub. I remember specifically Rei's voice.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
start off with having Asuka wake up Shinji, and he has a boner, of course.
Yes.
And then they talk about that. Meanwhile, you know, Gendo and I forgot what Shinji's mom's name is. Yui are in the kitchen, hearing all this and like whatever, to the point where even Gendo's like, "Hey, we should probably bang," and the mom's like, "Yeah, we'll you know." It's just like it's so weird and like perverted, but like then it goes into like we said with Rei. It's just like, what the hell is that ass voice?
Go back to hell with your ass voice.
It sounds like a fat, obese kid with Cheetos in his mouth. Like, it's just so bad.
I never thought it sounded like that, but yeah. I remember it kind of being like hickish. Is it
like really hick. It's just like,
okay.
Why though? Why would you personally do that?
Growing up in Southeast Kansas, I figured, you know, Anno Missa paid a visit because that was like the Kansas version of Rei.
Yeah. Then the classroom is amazing. So showing the difference between the dub and sub. First of all, when Masato introduces the class, in the sub she just is like, "Hey guys, what's up?" In the dub she's like, "Hey dudes," like, you know, just like it's weird, like doesn't make any sense of why she's doing it. And then they introduce Rei. They're like, "Oh no, it's the girl's panties you saw," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Asuka defends Shinji's. Is like, "Well, you basically flashed her." It's like, "Why are you defending him? Did you ride his balloon pony?"
It doesn't say that.
It does say that.
In the dub?
In the dub.
What the fuck? I gotta go back and rewatch that. There's no fucking way it says that.
It gets really weird.
In the sub, she says something sexual. It's like, are you banging it? It's like, are you doing him? I think
Are you getting with him or something like that?
Yeah,
and
it's
Shinji's
something
like,
to the effect of, like, are you
and
doing
then, like,
it?
Shinji's like, am I having, like, relation? Like, it's just like, what the fuck is going on? It's really weird. And, like,
There's no way that's real.
Hold on. I'm going to, like, re-listen to it.
I'm pulling it up, too. Hang on. Balloon Pony?
Balloon. It might even be even worse. It might be Balloony Pony.
I tried to look up Evangelion Balloon Pony, and I'm just finding... Oh, my God. You're not going to believe what I just found.
What?
Evangelion and My Little Pony crossover fanfiction.
Oh, perfect.
All right, we're getting way fucking
Hold on.
off track here. All right, we're looking it up, guys. Stay tuned. Can everybody hear it?
I don't know.
I can hear it, kind of.
Did you hear it?
Oh God, that voice is worse than I remember.
It's really bad.
I don't remember being that bad.
And who the fuck calls it a balloony pony?
Yeah, that's
does it
even
even
worse.
mean?
Balloony.
Yeah.
Balloony pony. What the fuck, man? I want to have a whole podcast talking about that. Can the rest of the podcast
Yeah,
be
we can
talking about
dedicate
what
to
the
that.
fuck that is? Jesus Christ. Who fucking wrote that? You know what? To an extent, I kind of defend the dub. This is the point where I get what everybody means.
Yeah.
I get it, guys. I'm on your side now.
I gotta be honest. I had the exact same impression when I saw this too. I was like, oh, okay, this.
How did I watch that and not? I mean, I'm sure I saw that and I was like, what the fuck? I'm sure I thought that, but how did that not stick with me?
It's like they got lazy on translating it, and they're just like, oh, I'm sure this is kind of what it means. Like, cause like it's just,
I just
it's
don't get that one.
It's
Wow, what
so
the fuck?
different and like dopey. It's like I don't understand. It's like dumb for no reason.
Yeah, that's.
It's
Man,
bad.
I'm kind of speechless.
It's like
I don't
bad.
really know what to say. I just keep thinking about it.
Like, and why would you just have Masato say, "Hey guys," like she does that? Why do you have to be like, "Yo, dudes"?
What's up, dudes?
It's like this is like if the
I got
team
this tubular girl for
It's
you.
like a team in T that just like decided to voice act the rest of Evangelion. Like it just makes no sense.
Man. All right. Well, if anybody is wanting to see more from that universe, apparently there's an Evangelion dating sim game you can play.
Oh fuck yeah!
I don't know if you can play it now. You might have to get like the ROM because I think it was like a PS2 game. Girlfriend of Steel 2, I think is what it's called if I remember the title
Is that
right.
what you date one or something?
I don't know. There's so many fucking weird Evangelion games.
Yeah, there is.
There's the first dating sim game, the Girlfriend of Steel 1 or whatever. Like apparently is unrelated to the second one, but the second one is apparently based off of that scene in that episode.
Oh okay.
It's like a whole game based around like that kind of universe.
That sounds horrible. I don't want that.
And there's also a manga based on it too.
Oh yeah,
So,
I did know that.
So yeah, if you're doing some more of that, I wonder.
If this was your favorite part of the entire series, then we got good news for you.
Yeah, this is purely meant to be like as a kind of a goofy example, and also kind of a break, I think, from all the like insane serious shit going on.
Yeah, which
You know, because it is meant to be kind of funny. Like, I think the scene between like Gendo and Yui in the kitchen is pretty funny. Actually,
Yeah.
like seeing Gendo like reading a newspaper and like being like, yeah.
I think this scene is funny. I think it's dubbed horribly to make it not even funny at all. It's just
because
ridiculous.
the sub wasn't so bad,
No, the sub is fine.
but balloony pony.
Balloony pony.
What the fuck? When we do our short analysis videos, we should do one about balloony
Balloony
pony.
pony. Okay, confirmed.
I can't believe that's really the line.
Yeah,
I kept thinking like, oh, that must have been like the translation you read at the bottom. Somebody fucking recorded that. Somebody not only wrote it, sure, I believe that. Somebody wrote it, sure. They hired the voice actor to come in. I don't know who voice acted that one. I don't know if it was the actual Ray voice actor doing something goofy or if it was like a whole different person. But they came in. They said, here's the line. They looked at it on the script. They said, okay, sure. They said it out loud. They said, sure. They recorded it. They listened to it back. They edited it into the episode. All of that happened and nobody said stop.
Yep.
Nobody said we can't put balloony
We
pony
cannot
in here.
put balloony pony in.
Everybody hashtag balloony pony. Let's get it trending on Twitter.
Oh my god.
All right, let's move on.
All right, let's wrap this up.
So I mean, there's not a lot to say about the alternate thing. It's kind of a break from the stuff, and it's really just meant to show another possibility. You know, though this one is like way far out there, it's kind of meant to represent like the way you choose to perceive the world kind of dictates how the world is.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if Rey is some like shut-in weird character, you're not probably going to perceive her as saying balloony pony, but you know, you can look at people a lot differently, and it's kind of up to you to an extent. And actually, quantum physics backs that up too. Everybody, check out quantum physics. Check out. I don't know where I was going. Goddamn, I hate when I fucking start to make a joke and like I lose it halfway through. Fuck me.
After the alternate reality, we kind of pull back to Shinji being like, "Oh, this is a possibility," which I think is even funnier after you watch the dubs because like, oh, this could be what I am. Like it looks like promising. I'd be like, man, I suck no matter what universe I'm in.
Yep. They say the mind separates reality from truth. Your view of reality changes your perception of its nature. Your truth can be changed simply by the way you accept it. Yeah, so you know, pretty much back to what we're saying, like the way you choose to look at things dictates the truth that you believe. Like the way you look at the world is dictated by the way you've chosen to look at your reality.
Right.
And you can kind of change that at any time. You could choose to look at they use nature as an example. You can see a sunrise and say, "Oh, cool, a sunrise. I really like that." Or the next day you can say, "Oh, fuck sunrises." Mm-hmm. That's up to you. Like the sunrise doesn't inherently have an emotion that it gives to you.
Right.
You choose that.
This is the sunny day, rainy day analogy they give, right?
Yeah.
Where like a rainy day is associated with being sadness, but it can be happy.
Yeah, you can have fun on a rainy day too. Yeah.
I mean, which is a really great perspective. I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know a lot of people, like I personally, I love rainy weather.
Oh, me too.
I love it. I think it's fucking awesome. But a lot of people, they hate it because it means they don't feel like they get to go outside and do stuff, and they can't. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like winter better than summer. I like the cold better than heat. A lot of people don't feel that way. A lot of people like summer because you get to go to the beach or whatever. And it's like I don't know. I like dressing warm and like
me too.
I like snow and I like the feel of that time of year. Plus, fucking presents. Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on.
Also, way better like food. There's way better like holiday Christmas food that you get than summer food. Like, what's a fucking summer food? Fruit?
Hey guys, yeah, fuck fruit.
Yeah, fuck fruit. Hashtag fuck fruit. Hashtag ballooneypony. Let's get it trending, guys. One who hates himself cannot love. He cannot place his trust in another. So this is the quote that I wanted to think of earlier. When you hate on yourself so much, you do, like, even if people tell you, like, oh, that's not true, those people don't hate you. If you hate yourself, you can't believe them. You can't find acceptance and love in other people if you haven't found it in yourself. That's definitely one of those slippery slopes you can get on. Like, I know a lot of people. I've personally talked to people and said, like, hey, everything's not as bad as you think it is. Maybe things aren't so bad for you. And they have responded with, like, no, it's terrible. Whatever. Like that. I think everybody's talked to people like that. Maybe you felt like that too.
Yeah.
And when at that moment, what that means is that person is really hating themselves. Like, they can't accept that anything other than what they're feeling, all the bad things they're feeling, they can't accept that anything else is true.
Right.
And again, that can change. You can change it anytime you want. The way you view reality is what becomes your truth. That's pretty much it. Shinji hears all that and kind of decides, like, I hate myself, but I could love myself because I can change that. I am no more or less than myself. And, he kind of has that breakthrough of, like, it doesn't have to be the way I've said it has to be. I make the rules. The rules aren't there. I can choose them. And he bursts through all of the stuff, and we see him standing on the weird little blue sphere-ish thing. Mm-hmm. Sphere, not sphere. And with all the cast, and we get the congratulations scene. Congratulations. You've won. Have you ever seen that video?
Yeah.
If everybody hasn't seen it, I don't like a lot of Evangelion humor videos because I don't think they're necessarily always that funny. But there's one where they do the congratulations scene, but they put in the congratulations you've won thing in there. Fucking funny. Check it out.
Hilarious.
We kind of ruined the joke, so it might not be funny now. But it's a good one. Also, in this scene, I just love that we get Pin saying it too, and it just squawks.
I'm just glad to see Pepe back.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's a cool scene. I've always liked that scene a lot. I think that it really really hammers these episodes home. It's just a really cool scene. I always like scenes. Man, I don't want to spoil anything either. This scene reminded me of a scene from another show that happens at the end of the show, and where you see all the characters, even ones that have gone.
Is it the same show you were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The final scene is all of the characters back.
It's weird because it's like, not only is it like the characters are like kind of saying goodbye, like, hey, this is the end, but kind of in a way the cast is too. So it's kind of like a nice culmination of like everybody.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I like endings like this, where it's like, we kind of see everybody again, and like all of the things that we've gone through, all of the themes, all of the ideas, all come to a head here as we all meet back up.
Exactly. And
yeah, it is kind of a goodbye to everything. And I think you could do that in a way that's really cheesy. It's like, goodbye, everybody. Congratulations. Thanks for watching. It's, it's sort of cheesy, but like this show pulls it off in a way that works.
You can't say you don't remember this exact ending scene, because this scene definitely stuck with you. Whether you loved it or hate it, like, you remember the congratulations scene.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's it. That's the episodes, guys. We made it. It took fucking forever, and I don't know what we were talking about through half of that, but
hey, Dave.
I hope you guys liked it. A couple more things I wanted to bring up. We didn't talk a lot about the animation style in this. We mentioned the budget stuff, but I think the animation stuff is really cool in here. People complain about it because it's abstract and weird, but again, I think it matches the things we're going through, and also we talked about this in an earlier episode. But the way things are in your mind isn't big, huge Hollywood scenes. It is weird little sketches and ideas and flashes of memories. And, we see all these crazy different animation styles. There's the traditional style of the animation in Evangelion. We see, hand-drawn stuff. We see flashes of text on screen. I mean, there's so many fucking things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool. I think it really works for these episodes. People hate on it, but they're fucking cool.
I like this the second time through so much more better.
Yeah.
Like, it was really good, actually. I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, I don't get this.
Yeah.
But now
it helps to have seen End of Evangelion, for sure.
And now I've seen everything, I really like this.
Yeah, I definitely, just overall, watching Evangelion this time, I got more out of it than I've ever got out of it. Just like pausing things and looking at quotes more specifically. Because I think this episode too, like, because I was pausing constantly to write down quotes, I was thinking about those quotes a lot more. Mm-hmm. Not that I hadn't thought about them before when I watched the show, but this episode has so many things so rapid fire for you to process. You just can't do it all in one sitting. Right. There's so many themes. So I think to pause and like look at them all as individual things helps explore them a lot more. So I definitely got more out of just the show in general, but especially these two episodes.
Same here.
But yeah. Again, I think the animation is really cool. I don't know if there's much else to say about it. I'm gonna bring up another random thing.
Okay.
Dylan.
Yep.
You listen to Pink Floyd?
Yeah.
You listen to The Wall?
Yeah, I listen to that.
I think that The Wall reminds me a lot of this stuff in Evangelion.
Really?
Yeah, the Wall is a concept album. If you've never listened to the whole thing, everybody out there, check out Pink Floyd. Have you heard of them? But no, really, I'm saying like even if you don't like their music, which you may not, it's not for everybody. But if you want to see something else that explores a lot of the same themes as this, The Wall is about a guy who goes through a lot of hard things in his life and kind of hates himself for it, and unrealistically perceives things wrong, and eventually decides to completely close himself from reality and choose kind of his own world where everybody else is gone and he is alone, isolated in behind the wall, and it starts to go crazy in his mind and starts to imagine the other people in his life appearing and talking to him and judging him for stuff. It is like this episode so much.
Pretty
like,
much, yeah.
It's so
point.
close to it. So if you want something else thematically similar,
That's a really good point.
check out Pink Floyd, everybody.
Check them out.
Welcome to You Cannot Rewatch, the only Evangelion thing you'll ever see, where we talk about Pink Floyd and recommend it. At the same time,
next week we're gonna analyze each track on Pink Floyd for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, we should do a special podcast where we just talk about how much each song on The Wall is like episodes of Evangelion.
Okay.
Mama, so much like episode 16 when he sees his mom inside of the unit.
Yep.
Fucking, I don't know, what's the song where he imagined himself as a neo-Nazi? Anyways, though, so yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, did I have anything else? Let me see. Nope, I think that's it. That's all my notes. So I hope that was kind of.
Hope you guys liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Do you like these episodes at all? Do you think they're shitty? Do you think that all of what we were talking about is like a bunch of fucking like pretentious garbage that comes at the end of a show that didn't need it? That because I do think if nothing else, like the show had all that stuff before, but it was much more subtle. This episode's kind of like fuck subtlety. I can understand if people don't necessarily like that. I think to an extent, kind of taking the themes from your show and shoving it into people's faces doesn't necessarily work. But I think this is a case where it does.
I agree. Yep.
But I could totally see why people might have a different take on that. Even if you do like these themes, they are all of a sudden right here in the open rather than kind of being carefully written into the background. So yeah, just let us know what you think if you're still fucking listening to this part. Get hashtag ballooneypony trending.
Do that.
All of our watchers, since we have so many, we could definitely get something trending. Join us again in 2 weeks, not next week, but the week after, for our podcast on End of Evangelion. Then probably 2 weeks after that, we'll be doing the series recap, and I mean we'll be probably releasing it 2 weeks after that. Maybe we'll see. I'm going to be emailing people pretty soon in the next couple of weeks, probably around the time the End of Evangelion thing comes out. You'll be getting an email from me, assuming you've emailed me first or messaged me first, and we'll try to get the date scheduled for the series recap special. Still trying to figure out. I think we're going to do Google Hangouts, but still trying to figure out exactly where we're going to do it. If you have a mic, maybe do a couple tests just to make sure that it's working. If you don't have a mic, please acquire one because we really don't want you to use your onboard computer mic. Your mic doesn't have to be great, but please get one. Also, I forgot to mention last time, we're gonna this will be like a video thing. You don't have to appear in video if you want. You can do it Sele audio only style if you want. But if you want to, and me and Dylan will probably have our videos open. And so this, since you're appearing on this, if you want, your face seen, if you want people to know who you are, whatever, you'll be able to appear there. So you can show your mom that you were on this cool thing. I'm gonna be showing my mom because she's a big Evangelion fan, of course.
Naturally.
My mom loves anime.
Who's your mom's favorite Evangelion character?
I'm trying to think of a funny enough joke answer really quick. I'm pretty sure if I would get in trouble if I showed my mom parts of Evangelion.
That's probably true.
I like anytime I'm watching it, like I want to make sure that like nobody sees it because it's one of those things where like I know the show isn't fucking weird, but if anybody like walked in while I'm watching a scene where like Gendo's hand is in Rey's breast, I can't explain to them. Oh no, Rey is a being created from Lilith, and that's too much. So, anyways, we're gonna be doing that soon. Check your emails in the next couple of weeks about getting scheduled. And is that it? Do we have anything else to talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Hey, we did it. We finished the show.
Made it.
I mean, End of Evangelion, it kind of counts as part of the show, but we finished the series, so... Hey, Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
God damn it! You beat me to it.
All
I tried
right.
doing that earlier. All right.
All right.
Well,
Bye, everybody.
Congratulations.
You've won.